Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. Wow, Vivian breathed, her eyes widening as she took in the vision before her. You look stunning. Jonah froze, his heart stopping for a moment as he turned to face his best friend. He had been so lost in his own little world, twirling and posing in front of the full-length mirror, that he hadn't heard Vivian come into his room. And now she was standing there, taking in the sight of him, no, her, in a figure-hugging crimson dress that accentuated all the right curves. Thanks, Jonah mumbled, feeling his cheeks heat up as he suddenly became aware of the strap of his black stiletto slipping from his grasp. He quickly reached down to adjust it, his fingers clumsy and awkward. Quinn thanks you. Vivian smiled, her green eyes sparkling with amusement. Quinn, huh? So that's your girl name? Yeah, Jonah nodded, his chest tight as he realized the secret he had been keeping for so long was now out in the open. He had always been so careful to keep this part of his life hidden, especially from Vivian. She was his best friend, his confidant, the person he told everything to. But this was different. This was a part of him that he had kept locked away, fearing judgment and misunderstanding. It suits you, Vivian said, her voice soft and sincere. And I mean that. You look really good, Jonah. Jonah felt a wave of relief wash over him at her acceptance. He offered her a tentative smile, his hands smoothing down the sides of the dress, a nervous habit he had whenever he felt self-conscious. It's just something I like to do sometimes. Dress up, you know? I get it, Vivian nodded, her blonde curls bouncing as she walked further into the room. Everyone needs an outlet, a way to express themselves, and this is yours. Jonah bit his lip, feeling more at ease with each moment that passed. Something like that, I guess. Well, you look amazing, Vivian said, her gaze taking in the full effect. The dress, the heels, the way Jonah carried himself so differently as Quinn. And I mean, really, who cares anyway? If this makes you happy, that's all that matters. A warmth spread through Jonah as her words sank in. He had always known Vivian to be open-minded and accepting, but to hear those words of support meant the world to him. Thanks, Viv. It means a lot that you understand. She waved him off, a playful smile on her face. Don't mention it. Now, turn around, let me see the back. Obediently, Jonah did a slow turn, the fabric of the dress whispering around his legs as he moved. He felt her eyes on him, taking in every detail, and a shiver ran down his spine. You know, Vivian said, her voice thoughtful, I've always admired people who can pull off this look. It takes confidence and a sense of self that's pretty badass. Jonah felt a surge of pride at her words. He faced her, his hands on his hips, a playful glint in his eye. Well, I guess I am pretty badass then. Vivian laughed, a bright musical sound that filled the room. I'll say, though I have to admit, I never would have pegged you for this, Jonah. You've been keeping quite the secret. He shrugged, feeling a weight lift from his shoulders now that she knew. It's not something I advertise, obviously, but it's a part of me, and I'm kinda tired of hiding it. Fair enough, Vivian said, her expression turning serious. And I'm glad you felt like you could trust me with this. That means a lot, too. Of course I trust you, Jonah said, his voice earnest. You're my best friend, Viv. I tell you everything. She smiled, her eyes warm. I know. And I'm honored that you felt comfortable sharing this with me. It's a big deal. There was a moment of silence as they stood there, a comfortable quiet between two people who knew each other inside out. Jonah felt a rush of gratitude for her understanding and acceptance. So, Vivian said, breaking the silence with a mischievous glint in her eye. Now that I know your little secret, Miss Quinn, what are we going to do about it? Jonah's heart skipped a beat at the question, his eyes widening as he took in the look on her face. What do you mean? Vivian took a step closer, her voice lowering conspiratorially. Well, now that I know the real you, I can't just let this go to waste, can I? We have to show you off to the world. What? Jonah stammered, his heart suddenly racing. I don't know about that, Viv. I mean, I've never been out as Quinn, I know. She cut in, taking his hands in hers. But that doesn't mean you can't start now. And I want to be the one to take you on your first date as the beautiful woman you are. Jonah felt his breath catch in his throat at her words. He had fantasized about this very moment countless times, going out, being seen, experiencing the world as Quinn. But to have Vivian suggest it and offer to be his date, it was almost too much to take in. Are you serious? He asked, his voice hoarse, disbelieving. Dead serious, she replied, squeezing his hands. I think it's time the world saw the real you, and I want to be there when they do. Jonah's heart was pounding so hard he thought it might leap from his chest. This was it, the moment he had always dreamed of but never truly believed would come. And it was Vivian, his best friend, offering to make it a reality. Okay, he said, his voice firm, his decision made. Let's do it. Vivian's face lit up with a brilliant smile. Really? You mean it? Yeah. Jonah nodded, his heart racing as the excitement began to build. I do. Okay, then we have work to do, she said, all business now as she started pacing the room, her eyes shining with excitement. First things first, we need to find you the perfect outfit. Jonah felt a flutter of nerves in his stomach at the mention of the perfect outfit. He had always taken great care in choosing his dresses and ensembles, but this felt different. This was for his first date, his first time truly stepping out as Quinn. I have a few ideas, he said, his voice cautious as he followed her with his eyes, knowing that whatever she suggested would be perfect. I bet you do, Vivian smiled, her eyes sparkling. And we'll go through your wardrobe together. But first, hair and makeup. We need to get you glammed up, girl. A thrill ran through Jonah at the thought. He had always loved playing with makeup, experimenting with different looks, but he had never had the chance to truly glam up, not like this. Okay, he said, unable to keep the enthusiasm from his voice. Let's do it. Great! Vivian clapped her hands together, her face alight with enthusiasm. I know just the look we're going for, too. Something classic, elegant, but with a bit of an edge. Sounds perfect, Jonah murmured, already envisioning the smoky eye and red lip she was describing. Now, she continued, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Let's get you in that bathroom and transformed. I want to see the full effect. Jonah's heart was hammering in his chest as he allowed Vivian to lead him to the bathroom, his hand trailing along the wall for support. This was really happening. He was about to fully embrace Quinn with the help of his best friend, and he couldn't wait to see the results. An hour later, Jonah stood in front of the mirror, barely recognizing the reflection staring back at him. His hair, normally a bit messy and unruly, was now sleek and stylish, with soft waves that framed his face. His eyes, enhanced with a smoky shadow, liner, and lush lashes, sparkled with excitement and a hint of nerves, and his lips, painted a bold crimson, curved up in a nervous smile. Wow, he breathed, unable to take his eyes off the transformation. I know, right? Vivian said, her voice warm with satisfaction as she stood behind him, her hands resting on his shoulders. You look incredible, Jonah. I feel incredible, he murmured, his fingers reaching up to touch the soft waves of his hair, still not quite believing it was his. Good, she said, her thumbs rubbing comforting circles on his shoulders. Because tonight, you are going to be the most beautiful woman in the room, and everyone is going to see what I see, a stunning, confident, and amazing person. Jonah turned his head to look at her, his heart full. Thank you, Viv, for everything, for helping me with this, for understanding. She smiled, her green eyes shining with affection. You don't have to thank me. This is fun for me, too. I love seeing this side of you, and I'm honored that you trust me with it. He turned back to the mirror, feeling a rush of gratitude and love for his friend. I am so glad you're my date tonight. I can't imagine doing this with anyone else. Me neither, she said softly, her breath tickling his ear as she leaned in close, her arms slipping around his waist. "Now let's get you in that dress and finish this transformation." Jonah's heart raced as Vivian helped him into the dress, a figure-hugging number in a rich emerald green that brought out the color of his eyes. It hugged his curves in all the right places, the fabric soft and flowing, and made him feel like $1,000,000. "Perfect," Vivian murmured, her hands smoothing down the sides of the dress, a look of satisfaction on her face. "Absolutely perfect." Jonah felt a surge of confidence as he took in his reflection. The hair, the makeup, the dress, it all came together to create Quinn, a person he had always felt existed within him but had never fully emerged until now. "I feel perfect," he said, his voice strong and sure as he turned to face Vivian, a smile spreading across his face. "Good," she said, her own smile brilliant and infectious, "because you deserve to feel this way. Now, let's finish the look with some jewelry, shall we?" Before long, Jonah was adorned with a pair of sparkling diamond earrings that brushed his jawline, a delicate tennis bracelet, and a ring that made his hand feel elegant and refined. "There," Vivian said with a step back, her eyes taking in the full effect. "Now you're ready." Jonah felt a rush of nervous excitement as he stood there, the reality of what they were about to do setting in. But he also felt confident and beautiful, and more importantly, accepted and loved by his best friend. "I'm ready," he agreed, turning to face her, his eyes sparkling with gratitude and anticipation. "Let's do this." The restaurant was lively, buzzing with conversation and laughter, the clinking of glasses and the soft murmur of music filling the air. Jonah felt all eyes on him as he and Vivian entered, his heart pounding in his chest. This was it, his grand entrance into the world as Quinn. "You look nervous," Vivian murmured at his side, her hand slipping comfortingly into his. "I am," Jonah admitted, his voice a whisper as he took in the stares and whispers they were garnering. But in a good way. She squeezed his hand, her thumb rubbing soothing circles on his palm. "You're amazing! You know that? Own it!" Jonah straightened his shoulders, feeling a surge of confidence at her words. "I will." As they were led to their table, Jonah felt the eyes of the other diners on him, some discreet, others not so much. He held his head high, offering a smile here and there, enjoying the attention, the whispered comments, the looks of appreciation. "You're killing it," Vivian whispered as they sat down, a proud smile on her face. Jonah felt a glow of pleasure at her words. "Really? Really?" she nodded, signaling for their waiter. "You're the most stunning woman in the room. Heads are turning, jaws are dropping. You're a vision, Jonah." A warmth spread through him at her words, and he felt himself relax into the chair, a smile spreading across his face. "Thank you," he said softly, his eyes shining with gratitude. "For everything." Vivian reached across the table, her hand covering his. "You don't have to thank me. I'm just glad I get to be here to see this side of you, to see you being your true self." Jonah's heart swelled at her words, and he felt his eyes moisten with sudden emotion. "It means the world to me that you're here, that you understand." She gave his hand a squeeze before letting go, a playful smile on her face. "Now, let's order some wine, shall we? We have a lot to celebrate." As the evening progressed, Jonah felt himself relax even further, the initial nerves giving way to a sense of euphoria. This was what he had always dreamed of, being seen, appreciated, and accepted as Quinn. And to have Vivian by his side, supporting and encouraging him, made it even more special. They talked and laughed, sipping their wine and sharing a delicious meal, the noise of the restaurant a comforting backdrop to their intimate conversation. "I can't believe I'm finally doing this," Jonah said, his eyes shining as he took a sip of his wine. "I've wanted this for so long, but I never had the courage." Vivian smiled, her eyes soft with understanding. "It takes courage to be yourself, to embrace who you are, but you're doing it, and you're killing it." Jonah felt a surge of gratitude, reaching across the table to squeeze her hand. Thank you for giving me the push I needed, for helping me see that I could do this." She waved him off, a playful look on her face. "Anytime, my friend. Though I have to admit, I'm having just as much fun as you are." Jonah laughed, a bright, joyful sound that drew the attention of a nearby table. He felt a thrill at the look of admiration on their faces, and he offered them a bright smile before turning back to Vivian. "I can see why," he said, his eyes sparkling with amusement. "I am quite the catch, if I do say so myself." Vivian rolled her eyes, her face breaking into a grin. "Modest, too. Such a catch." Their eyes met, holding the gaze for a long moment, a comfortable silence falling between them. Jonah's heart hammered in his chest, a rush of emotions swirling through him. Gratitude, affection, and something more that he couldn't quite name. "So," Vivian said, breaking the silence with a playful smile, "now that you've made your grand entrance into the world as Quinn, what's next?" Jonah's eyes widened at the question, his mind racing as he considered the possibilities. "I don't know," he said, his voice full of wonder. "Anything, I suppose. The world is my oyster." She nodded, her eyes shining with excitement. "Exactly. And I, for one, cannot wait to see what the future holds for the fabulous Quinn." A thrill ran through Jonah at her words, a sense of anticipation and endless possibilities. "Me neither," he said, his voice strong and sure as he raised his glass. "To the future and to being true to ourselves." "Always," Vivian agreed, clinking her glass with his. "To being exactly who we are, no matter what form that takes." As they finished their meal, Jonah couldn't keep the smile from his face. The evening had been everything he had hoped for and more. The food was delicious, the atmosphere was perfect, and the company was unbeatable. He felt a rush of gratitude for Vivian and her unwavering support. "This has been amazing," he said, his voice soft with emotion. "I can't thank you enough for being here with me, for making this happen." Vivian reached across the table, her hand covering his. "You don't have to thank me. I'm just happy to see you so happy. You deserve this, Jonah. You deserve to be yourself, to be seen and appreciated for who you are." He felt his eyes moisten at her words, a lump forming in his throat. "I don't know what I did to deserve a friend like you, but I'm so grateful." She smiled, her eyes shining with affection. "You're stuck with me, Quinn. Through thick and thin, I'll always be here." Jonah felt a warmth spread through him at her words, a sense of belonging and acceptance that he had never experienced before. "I wouldn't have it any other way." As they finished their wine and paid the bill, Jonah couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement for what the future held. This was just the beginning, the first step in a journey of self-discovery and acceptance. "So," Vivian said as they stepped out into the cool night air, her arm slipping through his. "Where to next?" Jonah considered the question, his mind racing with possibilities. "I don't know," he said, his voice full of wonder. "The night is young and the world is ours." She grinned, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "I like the sound of that. Let's see where the night takes us, shall we?" They walked down the street, the sound of music and laughter spilling out from the bars and clubs they passed. Jonah felt a thrill of excitement at the thought of exploring this new world, of experiencing everything it had to offer. As they turned a corner, a neon sign caught Jonah's eye, the name of the club glowing in bright pink letters. "The Glitter Room," he read aloud, his voice full of curiosity. Vivian's eyes widened, a smile spreading across her face. "I've heard of this place. It's supposed to be amazing. Trans shows, dancing, the works." Jonah felt a flutter of nerves in his stomach at the thought of entering such a place, but it was quickly overpowered by a sense of excitement. "Let's do it," he said, his voice strong and sure. Vivian squeezed his arm, her face alight with enthusiasm. "That's my girl. Let's show them what you're made of." As they approached the entrance, Jonah could feel the bass thumping through the walls, the energy of the place palpable even from outside. The bouncer, a towering figure in a tight black t-shirt, looked them up and down, his eyes lingering on Jonah for a moment before a smile spread across his face. "Well, well, well," he said, his voice deep and rich. "Aren't you two a vision?" Jonah felt a flush of pleasure at the compliment, his confidence growing as he met the bouncer's gaze. "Thank you," he said, his voice smooth and sultry. "We're here to have a good time." The bouncer chuckled, stepping aside to let them pass. "I have no doubt about that. Enjoy yourselves, ladies." As they stepped inside, Jonah was immediately overwhelmed by the sights and sounds of the club. The music was loud, the bass thumping through his chest, and the dance floor was packed with bodies moving to the beat. The air was thick with the scent of sweat and perfume, and the lights flashed and pulsed in time with the music. "Wow," he breathed, his eyes wide as he took it all in. Vivian grinned, her hand slipping into his. "I know, right? This place is incredible." They made their way to the bar, squeezing through the crowd of people, the energy of the place infectious. Jonah could feel the eyes on him as they passed, the appreciative looks and whispered comments making his heart race. "What can I get you, gorgeous?" the bartender asked as they reached the counter, his eyes lingering on Jonah. Jonah felt a thrill at the attention, a smile spreading across his face. "Vodka cranberry, please." The bartender nodded, his eyes twinkling. "Coming right up." As they waited for their drinks, Jonah let his eyes wander around the club, taking in the colorful cast of characters that filled the space. There were drag queens in towering heels and glittering gowns, their makeup flawless and their hair piled high. There were men in tight pants and mesh shirts, their bodies glistening with sweat as they moved to the music. And there were women of all shapes and sizes, some in dresses that hugged their curves, others in jeans and t-shirts, all of them radiating confidence and joy. "This is amazing," Jonah said, his voice full of wonder as he turned to Vivian. "I've never seen anything like it." She smiled, her eyes shining with understanding. "It's a whole new world, isn't it? A place where you can be exactly who you are, no questions asked." Jonah nodded, feeling a rush of emotion at her words. "It's everything I've ever wanted." Their drinks arrived, and they clinked glasses, the vodka burning pleasantly as it slid down Jonah's throat. He could feel the alcohol warming his blood, loosening his limbs, and he found himself swaying to the music, his body moving of its own accord. "Let's dance," Vivian said, setting her glass down and taking his hand. Jonah felt a moment of hesitation, a flutter of nerves in his stomach, but it was quickly overpowered by the desire to let go, to lose himself in the music and the moment. "Okay," he said, allowing her to lead him onto the dance floor. As they pushed their way into the crowd, Jonah felt the energy of the place wash over him, the heat of the bodies pressing in on all sides. He closed his eyes, letting the music fill him, his body moving in time with the beat. He could feel Vivian's hands on his hips, guiding him, and he let himself be led, his body responding to her touch. They moved together, their bodies pressed close, the rest of the world falling away until it was just the two of them, lost in the music and each other. Jonah had never felt so free, so alive. Here, on this dance floor, surrounded by people who accepted him for who he was, he felt like he could be anyone, do anything. The possibilities were endless and the future was bright. As the song ended and they made their way back to the bar, breathless and giddy, Jonah couldn't keep the smile from his face. "That was incredible," he said, his voice full of joy. Vivian grinned, her face flushed with exertion. "You were amazing out there. A natural." Jonah felt a rush of pride at her words, a sense of accomplishment that he had never experienced before. "Thank you," he said, his voice soft with emotion. "For everything, for being here, for supporting me, for making this happen." Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.